have you here join us. So let's begin with simple introductions, and then we'll maybe go around. We intend that this session should be 1 hour. And notice that it will be happening. This is like a series. Want to make it happen. We're hoping that it will be happening every Saturday. So trying to make it a series. And please, if you have some noise in your background, mute yourself and then unmute yourself when you want to speak. All right, so welcome to this important session. I know job hunting, job search, and finding a job, especially in the tech industry, if you're just coming in, is sometimes a daunting task, right? It's sometimes hard. Everyone realizes that you may have learned the skills very well, but it's difficult, Not that it's impossible. Many people are doing it, and I did it, and you can do it as well. So these sessions are simply sessions that would help us prepare ourselves well towards interviews. All right, let me introduce myself. I'm Primus Vekuh. I work for one of the big four in the US, and I have different levels of experience. So I started off in business intelligence, and I have been I've been around for a while. I've been in the database world, database modeling, database management, and now I'm mostly in the cloud space. So I do everything in the cloud space, from data engineering to someone is speaking pidgin somewhere. So let me mute everyone for now. So when you want to speak, you open up your connection and speak. All right. So and currently, as I was saying, I'm doing everything around the cloud platform. So I work as a cloud engineer, as a cloud architect, as a data engineer, and as a DevOps engineer. So there are times when you find yourself doing stuff that is completely DevOps. Sometimes I see myself doing something that is completely solutions architect. Sometimes it's engineering. So as you progress in your career in the AWS space or in IT generally, you'll notice that you have opportunities to grow to other things, and you can actually pick and choose what you want to do. I'm a hiring manager, so I participate in helping grow talents in the consulting firm where I am. So I have that unique experience to share with you, coming from a point of view where, I started off with just IT training, basic IT training, and then I've moved to different levels and I've experienced different things. And I think the experience has taught me a lot, in terms of, hey, when we talk of an interview, what do we mean? Let me share my screen here. Let's see, just one moment. All right. Okay, so as I was saying, I've had this unique experience where I get to interview people, right? I get to interview people for different types of jobs, for AWS jobs, cloud engineering jobs, Azure, Google, maybe software development, machine learning, which is data engineering side of things, and all those things. And that experience has given me a unique opportunity to gain insight in how interviewers think when they're asking questions. Because once you're going in for an interview, you are not going in to interview for all roles. You're going to interview for a particular role. And so, as I've interviewed people in these different areas, and I've participated on our interview champions groups and our interview preparation groups, I realized a few things. And I think once you apply those things, you're good to go. And that's why we have this session today. So we want to cover the following topics. Want to look at AWS job opportunities and any other IT job opportunities out there. Want to look at how to effectively prepare for interviews, for an AWS interview in this case, or any other IT interviews. And then want to look at things that interviewers love to see or love to hear. And then we'll look at resume building, what type of resume you should have. I see a comment here, you are doing good, keep being bold. Okay, thank you. And then how to study for interviews. That's something very important. So many people out there who are looking for jobs. You need to know how to study exactly for interviews. Studying for interviews is different from studying for a certification. Two complete different things. And then after that, we'll have a question and answer session. So that's how I'm looking at this. We are many of us. I will not let us introduce ourselves. Maybe when you want to speak, you can introduce yourself. But for now, we'll just get going because I know we have just an hour here. Now, when I'm talking about AWS jobs or AWS job opportunities out there, there are many AWS job opportunities available now, especially with COVID-19 and the fact that there's a paradigm shift in the way hiring is occurring, in the way work is happening now. From the normal office type of thing where you have to go bury yourself in an office and then you come back, by the end of the day, you get stuck in traffic. So many people are changing that model of work. So it's mostly remote type of work that's happening. And this is a unique time to get into the market. Once you secure a remote job after COVID-19, you're good to go with remote jobs because they trust that you must have learned how to work remotely. Very important. And there are so many opportunities available now. All they need for you to get in is a little bit of experience and know-how as far as technical interviews are concerned, and you'll be in because the jobs are everywhere and they pay very, very well. When I talk of AWS jobs, I'm talking of AWS solutions architect jobs. I'm talking of AWS developer jobs. I'm talking of AWS engineering, data engineering. Some jobs are very specific, while others are a little bit broad. And AWS as a platform has so many services, many things that you can do as a developer, as an engineer, as an architect. So the jobs are different. Don't think that, hey, because I've learned maybe just one thing, I can't apply that thing. If you've learned IAM in AWS very well, you can have an IAM administrator job in the AWS platform. And your work will only be to do what? Your work will only be to create users if you know how to create them through the programmatic method or through infrastructure as code. Manage those users, create policies, manage those policies, assign policies and permissions to different resources in the AWS environment. That's a huge, huge deal. You can do that and learn how to do that in a Windows environment. Combine those two, there are so many people who are hiring for what? For IAM administrators, for identity and access management administrators. You have those jobs. If you type them, you'll see them in the AWS space, of course. So when we talk of AWS job opportunities, there are just so many. There's an AWS DevOps engineer type of role. There is an AWS data engineer. There's AWS database administrator, and so on and so forth. So we are not just referring to some particular things like AWS solutions architecting, which is by far the largest in the industry, I think. AWS solutions architect is huge. I know so many people have taken that path, so we'll be looking at a little bit. Just a moment here. Let me bring on my browser. So if you go to Indeed, go to Indeed.com. I'm using, and let's just say AWS solutions architect. And then let's do United States. And we hit enter. So you begin to see the jobs are beginning to turn towards remote jobs, and the opportunities are amazing. So this one is 55 or not there, apply for that kind of role. This one, you don't know how much, but yeah, it is an AWS solutions architect role. So you see thousands and thousands of these type. Look at, we see 33,049, 33,049. How do they call that in English? 33,000 jobs approximately. Look at this. Look at the figures. AWS solutions architect only. So if you put the AWS DevOps engineer, if you put AWS IAM administrators, AWS whatever. So you see that the jobs are available. They just need a little bit of experience. There are so many people out there with certifications, just so many people. But that's not enough. To have a certification is not enough to get, to get a job. No, that's when I see a resume, the first thing I look at is what are the skill sets you've mentioned. The rest, it doesn't matter. I can see 10 certifications, but I need to speak with you to understand if the certification represents what you know. Certifications is a boost for some companies that are very good in consulting, in boosting their portfolios with other partners. Yes, they can want to have people with a lot of certifications. I'm not saying certifications are bad. No, those certifications will be useful in those type of scenarios. But if you can't back up your certification with real-time knowledge, with the fact that you know what you're talking about, it will be difficult for you to get a job. So certifications are important, but the most important thing is to gain the skills. So we'll see how to study for a certification and how to study for an interview, how to prepare for interviews. Those are two different things. Sometimes we confuse them, and then once you begin taking interviews, you don't get the jobs just because of that. So we'll try to distinguish between studying for a certification and studying to get a job. So you see, there are so many jobs. You have them here. You have them on Indeed. On what platform? You have them on LinkedIn. You have them on Dice. You have them on whatever employment platform that you have out there. So there are a lot of jobs available. That's just to clear the air on that particular thing, job availability. How to effectively prepare for an AWS interview. That's the big question. So as I mentioned earlier, AWS skill sets are so large. They are so huge. You can't have everything. You can't be everything, but you need to know the core areas and the core areas of IT to be able to fit in. What do I mean? Think solutions, don't think services. You will hear this everywhere. You're thinking solutions and not services. Once you're learning, once you're studying for an interview, once you're preparing for an interview, they are not so much focused on EC2 instances. They are not so much focused on RDS databases or SQL Server or Oracle. I'm talking in terms of an AWS solutions architect or AWS roles. They are not thinking of, hey, S3. They are not thinking of that unique service. You can know that service in and out and you will not get a job. They are not thinking that way. They are thinking solutions. What do I mean by solutions? Once somebody is interviewing you, they have a role in mind. They have a role in mind. They want to fit you in somewhere. So take, for instance, I am working on a machine learning project or a data analytics project or a data mining project. What's that project supposed to do? I want my users out there, maybe the company is helping others with the analytics platform, to analyze data for them. That's what the company does. It just analyzes data, presents it in beautiful dashboards for different users. Or maybe a company is producing something and their top leaders want to see these things, what they are producing and how the years have progressed, to make decisions out of that. They need a dashboard, to be built. They need a platform to be built, an application to be built with a front-end interface where they can scroll down, see exactly the details of the business, and not the fine details, but the overall details, like, hey, how many people bought this thing in this year? What revenue did we get in 2020? What failures, what success areas, what KPIs, and so on and so forth. Now, that is the business case. Then the team decides to hire people who would develop that application. As a team, it needs to be complete. The team needs to be complete. And so this company is operating in the cloud space. It could be Google, it could be AWS, it could be what else? Azure, it could be Alibaba, it could be DigitalOcean, anything. So they need to hire people. They need to fill in those roles. What are the roles that would make up the team that will build that type of application, that will bring that type of solution? So it's a solution you want to offer. What are some of the things that that team will need? The team obviously would need a database person, somebody who understands the back end of an application. So the team needs what? A back-end engineer, or let's just call it a full stack developer. A full stack developer, therefore, is somebody who understands how the back end would work. When I talk of the back end, I'm referring to the database aspect of whatever you're trying to build. I'm referring to that server part of the application the person is trying to build. So if the person is building an application that has an RDS database instance, for instance, the person needs to know how to write SQL. The person needs to understand how maybe they're using Python in the back end, understand how to write Python. The person needs to see a relationship, to be able to establish a relationship through APIs between that back end and the front end. So in this scenario, you see that the team needs what? The team needs a full stack developer, somebody who understands the back end and the front end. Or the team can decide to hire two people, somebody for the back end and somebody for the front end. The front end person is what type of person? The person who would build the front application, like what you're seeing here, this part of Indeed, right? This is built, these features. You see the fine jobs here, you see the company reviews, you see salaries, you see all these nice little things here, these tabs. You see this chat tab here. You see all this. They are built by what? By front-end developers. So the front-end developer needs what? They need maybe JavaScript. They need maybe React or whatever language they would use in the front end of the application. So the company needs to determine that. So there are two persons in the team already. Now the team, the program manager or the product owner would ask themselves, who else do we need in this team to be able to complete this process? So we have two people, somebody who will build this front part, somebody who will build the back end. Now, where will this application be hosted? Where would this application be hosted? Of course, it will be hosted in a cloud environment. So let's say it's hosted it could be hosted on-premise or in the cloud. In this instance, let's say it's hosted in the AWS platform. Now, they need somebody who understands the AWS platform and can build that will host this application. Or the team is deciding to go serverless. They need somebody who will be able to do what? Who will be able to build infrastructure, a serverless infrastructure that will host the application that the back-end developer and the front-end developer are building. That is a solutions architect. They need somebody with broad knowledge of the environment. They will come in, take a look at the solution that has to be offered, and build something and build a solution together. Put these things together. Now they are going out in the market. Who will they hire? They are looking for a solutions architect. And now when they come to an interview and they're asking you, hey, what are the skill sets that you possess? What do you think is in their back of the mind, or in the back of their minds? They are thinking, hey, what this person is telling me, does it fit exactly what I'm looking for? Can this person deploy? Well, of course, the team needs to determine, hey, do we want it to be serverless or whatever? So you're asking yourself as an interviewer, can this person build a database, a secure database? You don't just, anybody can build a database. Can this person build a secure database that will contain the code that my backend developer is building, that will contain the tables that will serve my application? If the application would use storage capacities like S3, can this person be able to create S3 environments that are secure enough to host this sensitive data that my company owns? Those are the things that are in the back of the mind, or in the at the back of the mind of an interviewer who is interviewing for that type of role. Would this person be able to establish a network connection between the storage capacity or the storage environment, which I mentioned, S3, and the RDS database instance, which will host this application? So you begin to think VPCs. Can this person create a VPC that would not open us up to the whole internet, such that you carve out a network that is defined only for this application, such that the back end and the server that you would build, or the serverless platform that you want to use, can connect together, such that they can connect, they can talk to each other? Is that person able to do that? And then you are thinking, can this person be able to automate this thing, automate the development work that is going on? So if the person if the developers behind are building their code, that's all they're focused on, just building their code. Once they commit the code, does it need to stay there for a week or two before somebody will come and deploy it? No. So it can be deployed through a CI/CD pipeline, a continuous integration and continuous deployment or development or delivery platform. Now, if the team is so focused on that, then they need to hire somebody with good knowledge of how CI/CD pipelines work, which means they would need a DevOps engineer in the team. Now, I want you to understand what the interviewer has in the back of their mind. They want somebody who can build something that is a solution, that blends together. They don't want somebody who come and recite S3 to them and then recite databases when they cannot link those things together to build a solution. So when the interviewer comes in, he's asking you, hey, can you tell me about the experiences you've had so far in your career? And you say, okay, I worked in company ABC as a solutions architect. I was in charge of managing the database infrastructure, managing the storage platform. I used S3. Some people just come in and they're like, hey, okay, my experience has been amazing. I use services in AWS. I'm very good in AWS. I've worked with services like S3, RDS. Okay, so they're asking you what solutions have you built? What are some of the things that you've used these services for? And then you're like, no. You need to understand the use cases. What is S3 used for? It's not just that you upload a file in there. What exactly is S3 used for? Then you can begin to bring solutions like, hey, I've worked on a project where, there is this client who wants to move their data from one place to another. Why? Because they discovered that their on-premise environment is no longer scalable. So they wanted an S3 environment, or they wanted an environment that is scalable enough to hold their big data workloads. So they decided to move these things over to AWS. And as they moved them over to AWS, of course, we designed a solution for them. They wanted to extend that use case. They wanted opportunities where people could directly query this data and build analytics data sets from, or analytics reports from this data set. Then you guys decided maybe to add Redshift cluster, which goes as with business intelligence and analytics tools and platforms. How did you do that? By maybe, building a lake formation or using Redshift Spectrum. How did you do that? Then you explain that process to them. So you're trying to build a solution in the mind of the interviewer. As you are developing that kind of thought, he's asking questions. Okay, so how did you do that transition from maybe just S3 as storage into a lake formation environment? Why did you decide to use Redshift in that scenario instead of some other tools like Snowflake or something else? Now you see they have opened you up to speak a little bit about Redshift. Then you begin to talk of the advantages that Redshift will bring over other data warehouses. So you want to think solutions. Now, in the first example that I gave, you want to establish that connection between a web application, a database, and of course, a web server. A typical application tier in IT consists of these components. Consists of what? A database component, or a component that hosts your data, so which is the database component. It consists of the web application, or the web server. Let's put it that way, the web server. The web server is a component of an application which simply helps you to be able to make available that application. So take for instance, if you want to host the application we mentioned, you need a server like an EC2 instance, or a VM, or a laptop, or a big machine, or in on-premise environment, or in AWS. You need that. So they need to understand that these components and how they relate. For the application we mentioned, you see there's a front-end part of it which will be hosted in a server. So how would you design a solution that contains these three parts of a normal application like the one we mentioned? Of course, you need a database. Of course, you need a web server. Of course, you need you need a network connection between all of these things. Now, you see, you will have to build a solution that has a VPC, is built in a particular subnet, is built in a particular security group, and this security group has to be hardened. It has to make sure that it is not just open to the whole internet. So you are talking in terms of solutions. Never ever talk in terms of just services, just mentioning services and defining them and explaining what you understand about the services. Very, very important. You have to understand what happens in the mind of the interviewer. They are bringing you in for a particular role, and to fill that role, you should be able to have the qualities that they need for someone who has to perform that role. If they are bringing you in because you are so good in the data part of an application, then you should be able to understand data flows, data workflows, data pipelines, how to move data from one place to another, how to transform data. And then you should be able to tell them, hey, I've worked on this project, which is this. It uses maybe glue crawlers to crawl data from one environment to another. You've built pipelines, and you begin to mention how you build the pipelines. So the mind of the interviewer wants to get your perspective about something they're working on. They don't want to mention the thing directly to you because they'll be exposing their business, but they want to understand if you are able to fit in that position. That's exactly what interviewers want. So they don't want you to narrate what you know about particular services. That most of them will not even go there. So you are going in for an interview and they will not even ask questions on the things you've prepared. So you've basically wasted your time. And I've interviewed a lot of Cameroonians who are applying as AWS solutions architect for my company. And the experience has been horrific, well, horrible. You know, you literally see how somebody is struggling in an interview, and it's hard. You know, some people just drop off because it's difficult. So you're asking somebody a question, they have no clue about what you're talking about. But those things are the things that they have on their resumes. So your resume should reflect what you have. So that's bringing me into this part here. What topics interviewers love. So after understanding that the interviewer is looking for a solution, for someone who can bring a solution on board. So what are some of the core topics that they want to understand? First of all, they want to understand your design principles. Your design principles are so important in anything IT. The way you construct it, always think of how to present the solution you want to build in an architect, in a diagram. Present things in a diagram. You cannot avoid diagrams in IT, especially as a solutions architect. So if you know this tool, draw.io, just one moment, let me bring it in. Create a new diagram, blank. Yep. Let's upload enough. Okay, you have to understand how things work and be able to connect them. So once you are talking, you have to talk at least with something. So diagrams are very, very important in anything you're doing as in IT, because that is the visual representation of the concepts that you have in mind. You have to be able to help either the product owner or whoever, the stakeholders, to visually see what you have in your mind, to visually see the concepts. It's logical. So some diagrams are very logical, while some others are conceptual. What you have in mind is what's conceptual. But once it is represented, it's a visual representation of exactly what your client wants to see. So let's take, for instance, you're building a solution, a data pipeline. So let's do S3. Okay, so let's say you're building a data pipeline. So, and then let's say you have users. People are still coming in. Let's say you have a team here. Let's just call it an on-premise team. And then let's say they need Redshift. Let's just carry a Redshift database and put here. And then let's say we need a server or something. So let's do EC2 instance. So it's just so you understand that these things are important. Diagrams are important. Visual representations of things are important. Now, you want to maybe present a solution to somebody, to an interviewer. You can amaze them by using something like this and tell them, hey, I have a diagram I think I can visually build a diagram of what you're representing. And you show them something like this. And you're drawing, actually, you're talking and showing them directly. You say, hey, you have the solution I'm thinking for what you're talking about is you can do this, 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 and you draw something like this and you explain it to them from a diagram. It's very pragmatic. It's very, so let's see. Oops. And then from here, let's see. Let's use this one. And back. I think so. You can do 2 ways here. So you can actually do something like this. Once you're discussing, you ask them, hey, is this what you mean? So take, for instance, you have users who have flat files in their local machines. You can say, hey, you build a pipeline using Python or PySpark or whatever, which moves the flat files from the user's environment here and stores them in a staging environment, in staging tables in S3. So S3 will act as your storage level of the application. And then from S3, maybe a service like Lambda, you can put this as a Lambda function. A service like a Lambda function will need to, from time to time, fetch this data because of the use case and store the data in a data warehouse where analytics platforms will take care of it. So you can put Tableau in front here. Tableau. Tableau, I think should be that. Tableau is not here. So let's say Power BI. Power BI not here. So let's say QuickSight. All right. So this is an analytics platform. And so you say, hey, this is the way the data pipeline works. You see, your users have flat files in their environment. Maybe these flat files are enhanced or something. And then they need to store this flat file somewhere. They need to keep this flat file somewhere because they are coming in a lot. So you migrate the flat files and put them in an S3 bucket. And there are processes, Lambda processes that run to massage this data or to process this data in different formats. And once this data is processed, there are users in our analytics team who make use of this data, who use this data to predict, to predict sales for the past years or for whatever, So what happens is you store that data, the processed data, the processed files in a Redshift cluster somewhere because the Redshift cluster was a better solution for your business intelligence needs. And so the developers directly connect. There's a direct JDBC connection that establishes a link between the Redshift cluster and your analytics platform. So your analytics people or your analytics team is simply making use of data that's found here. They don't know what's happening here. They don't know what's happening here. That's a solution you're already building right in front of an interview, and they understand that, hey, this person understands what he's talking about. He can represent this in diagrams. Very, very important. So when we are talking about topics that interviewers want to see that you understand the flow of things. If you are in the data world, you understand the flow of things. If you are in maybe as a solutions architect, you understand how solutions flow together. So core areas in AWS and how they work together. Very important. If you are in the database world, you have to understand how security works because users have to be able to access data that's stored in a database. How do you give access to those users? You have to be sure that you understand that. How is that data backed up? You need to understand how your environment backup and recovery operates in your environment. Will you be that kind of database developer who takes 10 hours to bring up a database in case something happens? So you want to have some of those little things at the back of your head. You want to be ready to go. And another thing that interviewers like to hear is that you are confident about what you're doing. You're articulating it with some passion in you. They want to see somebody who loves what they do. They don't just want to see that kind of who is just passive. No, they don't want passive people. So try to be that person. Once you're interviewing, forget about fear. Nobody will kill you. If you fail the interview, forget about it and move to the next one. People interview for 500 jobs before they get their next breakthrough. I saw somebody on LinkedIn last week. They posted rejected, rejected. They put rejected 200 times. And then the last time they put accepted and said, this is the dream job they were looking for. So you can be rejected in 200 jobs. IT is very, whether you know it or not, you can be rejected in 200 jobs. It's not like you don't know it. It's just that you don't fit the particular thing they are looking for. But it shouldn't be that you don't fit because you didn't study it well. You didn't study it the right way. It shouldn't be that you didn't know how to build a resume before, So coming to resumes, very important. Let your resume have what you can defend. If I ask you a question about something that's on your resume and you're not able to answer it, I'm like, so you don't represent what's on your resume. Have just what you can at least articulate. You can at least back up on your resumes. So once you're going in for an interview, you know that, hey, I have a little bit of this, I have a little bit of everything that is on my resume. You should be able to back it up. On other sessions, we'll be looking particularly how to build a resume, what a resume needs to have, and then how to customize your LinkedIn platform so that it looks a little bit catchy to people who are hiring. So we'll do that on our next session. We'll not spend a lot of time on resumes here, but know that your resumes are important because that's the first point of contact. You don't want to have resumes that have comments on the side and then you forget that you have comments in there. You want to have a resume that represents you at least. It doesn't mean that everything in there has to be true. So many people, in fact, American resumes, somebody can describe one little skill set that they have in 10 paragraphs, in 20 paragraphs. They can say, I'm highly motivated, highly contextualized, whatever. So just some big terms, but be able to understand the fundamentals of whatever you're putting on your resume is very important. How to study for interviews and or certifications. This one is top notch. Guys, most people that I've seen or I've interviewed, I'm talking to our community, our Cameroon community especially, or African community. Most people I have interviewed are certification followers. They simply studied for certifications and not to gain the knowledge. How do you study for a certification? You study for a certification by following particular topics that will come for your certification. You are simply doing those topics and you can actually study those topics, go pass your exam, come out clear and you're good to go without knowing how to implement what you're doing. So most people rush over certification materials, just cover that particular thing that you see in your exams, boom, they're done. Then you go study it for a month, you're out there looking for jobs and you're not getting them. Why? Because you studied for a certification. Certification courses are uniquely prepared for you to take the certifications. Take for instance, if you go to Udemy, there are so many courses that are certification based and there are others that are not certification based. So you want to look at course, if you want to just get a certification because you have the knowledge already, awesome, all good and fine. Go there, get your material and prepare for your certifications. But there are some people or some trainings that are geared towards you understanding the whole environment, you understanding how things work together with use cases. There are so many use cases out there. There's nothing that is not available now online, guys. I hear people saying, oh, hey, I'm looking for, can you give me, like some projects? I don't have a project. I don't have experience. There are so many projects out there. Look at this. All right, let's go to AWS hands-on projects. Let's type this. Come in here. You look for AWS hands-on projects. You see, There's everything here. Everything as a solutions architect, if you're looking for, or anything, developer or whatever in AWS, these are hands-on projects. Some go even for 50 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. And yeah, they are here. But many people, maybe they don't explore the documentations that are available. Maybe they don't explore stuff. Take, for instance, if you want to work on databases, if you want to have hands-on experience on databases in the AWS environment, you simply click to AWS, the database site here, choose the database thing. You see, there are hands-on. Look at this one, 3 hours. If you can finish that one, you already have something really good. Inventory systems. See, this is something you can actually pick up as a use case that you've worked on, and you'll be speaking with facts, because this is an inventory system for games with Amazon Aurora. You say, hey, you work for a company that produces games, and you guys use an inventory system, and you architected that using, or the database part of that application was Aurora serverless. You use that with to deploy your inventory system. And so you go into it and you see the details here. They will give you the details. Look at it. They give you an introduction into that particular use case. Look at it, has everything. Then they give you the requirements for that use case. Look at the requirements for this one. Active AWS account, a browser, Amazon Aurora, CloudWatch, Cloud9, that's an IDE, AWS Secrets Manager, Amazon Cognito, that's for authentication, data APIs, maybe gateway, AWS Lambda, Amazon API Gateway, and the CDK. These are the things these are a lot of services, guys. Then they give you the background on how to set up, how to provision a database, how to plan your data model. You see, so this is a whole project you can work on and present to your interviewers as experience that you've had. This is just one of the many projects that are available in AWS, how to deploy the application. So it teaches you from end to end. You would hear interviewers saying, hey, we want you to give us an end-to-end implementation that you've had. Right? You've heard, I'm sure some of you have heard that. Give me an example of an end-to-end project you've worked on. This is an end-to-end project right here. That's just for the database one, and that's just one example in the database model. You have others. Look at this one, it's 4 to 6 hours. If you want to really get hands, look at another one here. Build a friend recommendation engine. This is this is a business case. A friend recommendation. This is almost like something that Twitter does, or that what application presents a friend. Yeah, Facebook. You can go on Facebook on your page and you see, sometimes you see friends of your friends passing. This is a solution like that. You get into it to know the details. They will even give you the code, give you everything. Look at it. They give you an introduction. They give you a background to it. They give you how to provision resources, how to plan your model, how to authenticate into it, and how to deploy the application. That's a complete end-to-end, and how to test and see how it works. Clean it up after. And they tell you the exact time it will take to build that service. They tell you how much it will cost you. So you see, it's not like people lack use cases. Use cases are available, but you have to make time out to build them. So to do this one, you have 2 hours to waste on the AWS platform just to build this. Of course, you face issues. That is when you go to people who have had experience. Say, hey, I'm working on this thing and I'm stuck here. I'm working on this and I'm stuck here. There's so much material out there now that most people don't want to teach anymore. Just so much material. But it's your ability to use that material for your benefit. That's important. So studying for certifications, you focus only on those particular things. So if you're studying for AWS Solutions Architect certification, the topics are out there. Go study those topics, boom. But if you're studying for other things, the way those topics are set up, you will not even touch some of those. because AWS certification, I don't see glue, but glue is a major part of what you'll be doing in your day-to-day activities as a solutions architect or as a data engineer. So guys, these hands-on projects for the AWS platform, even for those who are doing the database part, because everything is moving to the cloud now, you guys can take a look. So I'm sharing the link here with you guys. I've sent to the chat. Do you think WizLabs is a good resource for project? WizLab is a good resource for certification preparation. If you are working on WizLab, it means you've studied something, you want to write a certification. WizLab is for certifications mostly, because they will give you, well, the way it works, they will really set you up for the certification sample exams. You write them, and then you see where you failed, and they'll direct you to the material, and they'll tell you, hey, this one is wrong because of this. This is what you could do. And then there are videos lecturing exactly what you're looking at. So WizLabs is very much good for certifications. Or your advice is to use AWS hands-on project. As I'm mentioning, this hands-on project, there's nothing that beats it. Any other question? Hello, Prof. I have a question. As we are transitioning from other fields to IT or AWS, do we build a complete new resume, discard the old ones? This is one thing I have to mention. If one of you gives me your names and I put your name on Google here, like Primus, let me just put my name, Primus Vekuh. You should be able to see a lot about me on here. You see my Instagram page, you see my company here, you see my company here, you see videos that I've had, you see podcasts that I've done, you see whatever about me, right? You see that. You'd go on Google like this and type your name. Let's see what comes up. If you've worked for a healthcare company and you put your resume on Glassdoor and you forgot, you will see it there. So once interviewers or once recruiters pick up get your resume, they'll just go on Google, or there are actually tools that they use to search and see where you are present on the web, on the internet. So if they see that in 2020 you're working at, your resume shows online, when you're forgotten about it, you're working as a healthcare worker, and then in 2020 you're working as a solutions architect in January, they'll be like, how did this person transition? So you need to clean up your background. You need to clean up your background. You need to go on all the platforms. Just type your name, see where you are found on the net, clean it up. Go to Glassdoor. If you have a resume there that's not linked to your thing, clean it up. If you go to LinkedIn, you had something else, clean it up, change it, update your things everywhere so that people cannot be able to see information that is contrary to what you have. So if you have a LinkedIn profile and you were a nurse and then you eventually changed, go on there and change it, or go and deactivate it while you're working on something else. There are ways to do that we can share in upcoming sessions. Let me see. I think those were the questions up there. And then what else? I think we can open this up for questions and answers. There's a lot more I have to say, but it will be coming up in other sessions.